Thank you, John. What John forgot to mention is that I supervised John for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. That's why I don't have any hair. So really, we had the opportunity to work together on the Gwinnett County transit operation before Gwinnett County had buses, and John and I worked on developing the transit services for Gwinnett County, and he certainly did an excellent job, but there were times I was pulling out my hair. Not because of John, but just because of the startup operation. So good afternoon. This afternoon, I'll be starting this session with a review of electric bus basics. How many of you are experts at electric buses? Good, good. I hope you enjoy the presentation. And after that, my fellow panelists will do focus more on the implementation of electric bus service in the United States. So, here are the driving factors contributing to the interest in electric buses. Transportation, 28.5% of the U.S. energy consumption is done through the transportation sector. Petroleum accounts for 91.5% of that consumption. Buses consume 98,000 barrels of petroleum daily. And that results in 470,000 tons of particulate matter emissions a year. Here, the Altoona Bus Research and Testing Facility, as you know, they test bus. What they've documented is the average fuel economy for the electric bus is 20.5 miles per diesel equivalent gallon. That compares with an average for CNG of 4.8 and the average for the hybrid bus of 5.84. Reducing emissions and reliance on petroleum by the transportation sector is seen as an important step in realizing health benefits, reducing global warming effects, improving national security interest, and creating jobs. So that's the reason for the interest in electric buses. So let's review the different types of electric buses. There's a hybrid electric bus, there's a fuel cell electric bus, and there's a battery electric bus. With the hybrid electric bus, diesel fuel is pumped into the bus. A hybrid electric bus is powered by an electric motor and a smaller than normal internal combustion engine. To achieve heightened efficiency, the battery-powered electric motor allows the combustion engine to operate at periods of maximum efficiency. With the fuel cell electric bus, a fuel cell electric bus is a battery hybrid electric bus with a lightweight onboard fuel cell power system. Through an electrochemical reaction of hydrogen and air, the fuel cells generate DC power for the bus electric drive and recharge the batteries. With the battery electric bus, the bus is charged directly with electricity. A battery electric bus is an electric bus that is driven by an electric motor and obtains energy from onboard batteries. So the advantages of a hybrid electric bus is there's a comfortable transition to the new technology. The disadvantages are the increased weight decreases the vehicle capacity due to maximum axle weight limits. Battery capacity and useful life may be reduced by extreme temperatures. So those are the disadvantages of the hybrid electric bus. The fuel cell electric bus, the advantages there are almost no pollutants are created. Theoretically, less maintenance due to the absence of internal moving parts. Fuel cells can be coupled to easily customize the power output. and the hydrogen fuel cell vehicles do not suffer from the same range issues that currently restrict electric battery vehicles. In addition, extensive hydrogen storage and refueling structure is needed. The fuel cell electric bus is around 7 times more expensive than both diesel electric buses and electric buses, and the cost of constructing a hydrogen refueling facility or fueling station is approximately $5 million. Fuel cell components are very sensitive to heat changes, water concentration levels, and impurities within the hydrogen fuel. And in addition, hydrogen is less energy dense than diesel, so more storage space is required to match the range of diesel buses. The advantage of a battery electric bus is there's very low overall emissions if renewable energy sources are used. It's efficient, very high vehicle energy efficiency. The electric motor is simpler to maintain due to less moving parts. Reduced operating costs. Based on current electricity prices, the cost of operating the buses are much cheaper than the diesel bus. This is true even if the current fuel tax is added to the electricity price, and they're quieter to operate. The disadvantage, currently, they are limited to a reasonably small range distance. Current batteries are heavy, adding to the weight of the bus and potentially limiting what roads they will be able to operate on. Disadvantages of the battery electric bus. Increased weight means the vehicle capacity is reduced to stay below maximum axle vehicle weights. Requires charging infrastructure either at depots, bus stops, or both, resulting in higher capital costs, and complicated utility rate structures lead to high electricity rate charges, including demand charges. So there's various demand charges that the utility companies may add. The 3 main components of a battery electric bus are bus configuration, battery storage system, and charging infrastructure. So with the rest of my presentation, I'll go into a little more detail on the charging infrastructure, because that's probably one of the most critical components that you need to consider when you're considering electric-powered buses. So, the bus charging methods. There's 3 types of charging methods in the United States: plug-in charging, overhead conductive charging, and wireless inductive charging. Now, when Bob Babbitt is up here, you can ask him about wireless inductive charging. He's our expert on that. So, with the plug-in charging, it's typically installed at the garage. It's typically used to charge overnight and typically used as the sole charging method for buses with large battery packs and higher range. The pros of plug-in charging: minimal infrastructure and installation requirements, lower cost per charger than other options, take advantage of the off-peak electricity rate. We talked about the peak. Here you can take advantage of the off-peak electricity rate when charging overnight. More flexibility for route selection and future route changes if the plug-in charger is at the garage. The disadvantages of the plug-in charging: buses must be taken out of service to charge. Buses use larger, heavier battery packs that can reduce bus efficiency, reduce passenger capacity, and increase wear on suspension components. Charging process is manually intensive. In addition, charging is typically slower than other options. Charging can require a lot of space with the charger for each bus. Charging can require a lot of power with each bus charging at the same time. Another charging method is overhead conductive charging. Typically, this is installed en route or at a transit center where layovers occur, allowing for opportunity charging. It may also be installed at the bus depot or yard. Typically serves multiple buses operating on routes or from transit centers. Typically used with buses with smaller battery packs and less range. The advantages of the overhead conductive charging: buses use smaller, lighter battery packs. There's a full range charge in 5 to 20 minutes. Can support 24-hour bus operation if implemented properly. The disadvantages of conductive charging: higher cost of charging infrastructure, requires charging infrastructure equipment and civil work since you're doing it off-site. Peak demand charges significantly affect operational costs. So you can see throughout this presentation, the rates on electricity vary significantly. So you need to take that into account. Land use and rights must be obtained at deployment. Again, when we're doing the overhead conductive charging, normally that's done off-site away from the garage. So keep that in mind. Overhead systems may interfere with road clearances or require a dedicated or restricted pull-off. Fixed infrastructure constraints route changes in the future or can be costly to relocate. So one of the challenges with this technology, since it's off the site, if you decide to move the route, then you no longer can use that one and you're going to have to build another one. So that's what you have to recognize with this charging method. Finally, we get to the wireless inductive charging, typically installed en route or at the transit center where layovers occur, but could also be used at the bus depot. Typically serves multiple buses operating on routes from the transit center, typically used with buses with medium to large battery packs and medium range. The advantages of the inductive charging: the bus can remain in service while charging en route. Decreased infrastructure footprint. Unlike the overhead, there's less of a footprint with this charging. Charging interface doesn't interfere with road clearance or require the dedicated or restricted pull-off. No manual connection or moving parts. The disadvantages: slightly less efficient than conductive charging, higher cost of charging infrastructure, requires charging infrastructure equipment and civil work. Peak demand charges significantly affect operational costs. Land use rights must be obtained at the deployment sites for the inductive charging. Fixed infrastructure constrains route changes in future or can be costly to relocate. Again, with the overhead conductive charging and inductive charging, the issue becomes once you put it into place, you have to keep that route there forever or relocate it, and that gets to be expensive. So, that being said, there is no one-size-fits-all solution with electric buses and charging infrastructure. Thus, procurement and planning decisions must be made carefully based on the individual needs of the system in order to achieve and maximize the benefits of all of the electric technology. And I'm going to end my portion of the presentation and turn it over to Bob Babbitt. Before I turn it over to him, I do have some handouts. I found this handout was done in April, or this guidebook was done in April of 2021. It's Electrifying Transit, a guidebook for implementing battery electric buses. So this was done by the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, and within it, it contains an excellent flow chart of all the different activities that you need to be aware of to implement an electric bus service. So it's an excellent outline of all the considerations that you need to make if you're going to consider the implementation of electric bus service. And John, if there are not enough handouts and you're interested, if you'll leave me your card, I'll make sure we'll get you a handout. Or you can I'll send it and you can post it on the website. And with that, I'll turn it over to Bob Babbitt.